And the thing I remember most, or that I will remember most, the thing I will remember most about I figure you can cut whatever doesn't work. I'm really bad at these. Like,
This will
whenever they
be
film
great.
stuff for the school, they always have to cut it. So the thing that I will remember most about my trip to England is my climb up the 302 steps of the Salisbury Cathedral in Salisbury. It was hectic. It was crazy. It was nerve-wracking. Some of those steps were marble, some were concrete, some were wooden, and some made me scream. Well, somebody grabbed my ankle, so that's what made me scream. But I screamed nonetheless. We also, while we were up there, we made it to the bell tower before we made it up to the spire. In the bell tower, our guide assured us that the bells were not going to ring because they had not been working. He was wrong. So we were actually about 10 feet away from these famous loud bells. As they gonged, thankfully, I believe it was just 2 o'clock, so we only had to hear 2 bells, which was good. And then we continued our way up to the top, those final steps. And when we finally got out there, we got to the top of the bottom of the spire, top of the tower, and the guide showed us this tiny little wooden door in the far side of the room. He said, "We're going to walk out that. Few of you go at a time." So a few of us walked out. This tiny little door. You're not expecting much light is coming in from this little miniature door. You open it up, you climb outside, and the whole hillside, the whole countryside of Salisbury and its surrounding areas opens up to you. There's light everywhere. The wind is in your face. And just there's an entire expanse of land out there for you to look at and to see. And if you looked back up at the tower, you would see the clouds going over it because it was a pretty windy day. But as the clouds were doing that, you were so close to the base of the tower that it actually looked, as the clouds were moving away, the tower looked like it was coming back over on top of you, and it was just a very surreal experience. And that was great.
Okay. Are you recording? Okay. Sorry. Hello, my name is Travis Howard. Something that I will never forget about our trip was the Tower of London. It was such a unique experience in the city, and it's something that I'll never forget. The biggest thing that stood out to me was just how there was so much architecture and so many buildings throughout so many different periods of time, all in one area. It was the first original structure in London, and then everything kind of centered around that. It became the central hub for the city of London throughout its history. And walking around seeing all those old structures throughout different time periods was such a unique and enlightening experience to kind of get a full breadth of the architecture through London's history. And standing up on the walls and being able to look out over the rest of the city and look across the River Thames and seeing newer buildings like the Shard or the Gherkin, in such contrast to those old structures was something truly unique and amazing, and something that I'll cherish.
You sure? All right. My name is Maverick Keller, and the one thing I think I'll always remember about London is the room full of giant potatoes. But seriously, Tate Modern was one of my favorite aspects of the trip to London. It's a modern art museum in London, and it's housed and located in a pre-industrial building, which I actually did a presentation on for our travel and study class, it was really interesting seeing how the architects actually changed a pre-industrial building and an old building into what is now a nice modern art museum, and how they actually tied back into a new part of the museum and they connected it to what is now called the Switch House. So experience the inside and the exterior and the interior and how these things connected, and the overall aesthetics and architecture of the building was a pretty great experience for me. And the modern art really hit me hard. I never really experienced modern art or a museum, and London was my first time going to a modern art museum, and it's the biggest one in the world. And I really found many exhibits really interesting, including the exhibit with the giant potatoes. It really exhilarated me. It's really mind-blowing walking into a room full of giant sewn potatoes and sitting there as I was looking at them, just realizing how how many different aspects there are in modern art. You know, it's like it has its own entire world of modern art. There's so many different aspects, and there can be so many different mediums and different languages within the world of modern art that I really started to appreciate when I visited Tate Modern.